Welcome to week 6 of writing every day for 2 hours until the first draft of my book is completed. On the 36th day, I worked on the 28th chapter. Again, I switched the point of view character, I switched the events, I was very dissatisfied. I was annoyed and I wanted to sleep. Nevertheless, I did write for 2 hours. On the 37th day, I wrote for 15 minutes. I was incredibly sleepy. I actually kept falling asleep. To my demise, I realized that I've been struggling with this chapter for the past 5 days. I thought that maybe I should read again The Cruel Prince and maybe become inspired, maybe become unstuck like the previous time. But I just couldn't keep my eyes open, so I went to sleep. I absolutely hated this day. Day 38, I wrote for 2 hours and in total I wrote 846 words. From the moment I woke up, I just knew I was going to continue my story. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I just knew that I would get unstuck. Coincidentally, I also had a day off from work that day, so it makes me think a little bit if the stress from the day job or evening night job made me so stuck in this chapter. What's important is that I did overcome the obstacle. I did not complete the 28th chapter, but I did move forward in it. And I actually reached the point where I was really excited to continue writing the next day. In those 2 hours, while I was thinking of my story and trying to continue that chapter, I realized that one thing that was very off in this chapter was the initial dialogue that was happening in the beginning of the chapter, and how it was very unrealistic for the characters, as well as the actions that they took afterwards. So that was a big reason as to why I just felt so off about this chapter, although I didn't understand it consciously. I actually changed a rule about the system of magic in my world. I had created this rule in order to actually help me in the progress of my plot in just one chapter. There was this one chapter that I wanted something specific to happen, so I had created this rule in the magic system, but now I realized how difficult it is for this rule to exist and how pretty useless it is, save for that one chapter that I needed it. In other words, this rule was forced. It was forced by me onto my story just to fit the narrative for one chapter. And by removing this rule, the 28th chapter became so interesting, and I was just really looking forward to continue writing the next day. To add on that, on the 38th day, I also did quite a bit of research on how to protect oneself from a cat attacking, and one answer led to another. And at some point, when I finally stopped with the research because I had gotten more than enough of the answers that I needed, I realized that I had gotten out of the writing zone. I am sure you have experienced this yourself, but when we write and we're very focused on what we do, at some point the outside world doesn't exist, and it's all about our story and our characters. So when I interrupted this flow in order to do this little bit of research, which ended up being longer than necessary, when I actually came back to writing, I needed some time in order to get into the story again. And I thought, I already knew that, but I did the same mistake of doing research while writing. So I decided to stop doing research as much as this is possible while writing. Day 39, I completed the 28th chapter and the 29th chapter. I wrote in total 4 hours. It was also another day when I didn't have my day job. I had placed an alarm for 3 hours, but there was so much suspense and I just had to keep on going until I finished the 29th chapter as well. I wrote in total 2,208 words. A very nice day. Day 40, I wrote for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I was working on the 30th chapter, which was from the point of view of Leo. And I actually needed at least an hour and a half to figure out how I was going to start the chapter. Day 41, I didn't write at all. And I actually knew I wasn't going to have time to write because I have to do some bureaucratic things. But the thing is, this day it actually felt pretty good not writing. I actually posted a separate video about this, but the process in my mind of knowing that I was not going to write, therefore I didn't have to feel guilty about it. I didn't even have to think of my story and just relax, do the jobs that I had to do and take a breath, cook. I didn't cook, but just relax a little bit. Don't stress about other things. It was actually very interesting. I know that we need to take a break, that we are not robots. We have to maybe have a day in the week where we just relax, take a breath, take a step back. But I feel like I've been putting off my creativity for so long, and I've already rewritten the first draft, which was a total failure. Then I rewrote 55,000 words of the first draft, which again didn't go as it should, and I reached the climax already, and the story was just... There were many problems with this version. The characters kept acting out of character. I wasn't thinking too deeply about it, although I should. I was using the excuse of being a discovery writer in order to just keep writing one chapter after the other without really paying as much attention to what my characters want and how they would normally react. So this is like the third draft, but it's not the third draft, it's the first draft, a rewriting of the first draft for the third time, and that makes me not want to take a break. I feel like it's so crucial for me to complete this story. Nevertheless, the 41st day I didn't write at all, and it felt quite good. And final day of the week, day 42, where I wrote for 1 hour and 15 minutes. I continued with the 30th chapter. In this chapter, something happened that acted as an obstacle to one of the main characters, but I actually realized that it wasn't really working out. So I kind of worked it in my mind and I changed this obstacle to something else. All in all, this week was very productive. There was just one day of not writing at all. There were a couple of days where I didn't meet my 2 hours goal, but there were also days when I overcame that. In total, I wrote for 12 hours and 20 minutes, and I wrote 3,714 words. I am very satisfied with this week's progress. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy my journey of working on the first draft of my novel every day, or, well, trying to work on it every day. Subscribe for future content, and I will see you again next week. Bye bye.